Hey everyone, this is Mads from Copenhagen FinTech. Thank you all for your interest in FinTech, and of course thank you for all the applications that you sent to CBS FinTech, who chose you for the week that we have here. We are very excited to show you a presentation by Christian, the Director of Customer Service from Lunar. The practical way that we will do this is that we will start with a 20-minute session presentation by Christian, and then we'll have a 10 to 20 minute Q&A afterwards. The way that you ask questions is simply by writing them in the chat, and then I will read them from my phone to Christian after the presentation. Thank you, and we are ready for the presentation by Christian. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Matt. And hi everyone, I'm Christian from Lunar. I'm the Director of Customer Service. I've been in Lunar for about 1.5 years, and before that I have a long career in support, sales, customer experience from a number of tech companies abroad and also telco companies in Denmark. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Lunar and what it is we do. And again, thank you so much for applying for this session, and I hope that you have a great time. Looking forward for your questions afterwards. So you probably know this guy. He said something back in '90 that banking is necessary, but banks are not, hence Lunar. So that's us, astronauts aiming for the moon to make something different. What we see is that things change around us, and banks should too. That's kind of our catchphrase and our payoff. For instance, work changes. If you look back, not even a few years ago, you would see that when you had to work, you were bound to your desk. You see technology change. You can actually work from anywhere around the world where you want to be, how you want to sit, everything. So everything changes. Look at sports, for instance. Sports changes too. From big stadiums where you look at sports for a big sprint or whatever it could be, but also look at esports, how that's changed. Filling stadiums where you look at screens with guys playing computer games. A big change in that as well. Dating changes, from meeting guys and girls at the bar to make it a more digital experience. I'm not going to go so much into that. I'm way too old for that thing. You guys probably know that a lot better. Communication changes. So I even remember that thing over on the left. I've even tried one of those things. You don't see that anymore. But look at how that has changed the way we communicate as well. So things change all around us, and that's what Lunar is also about. We look at that because what we see is banks actually haven't changed over the years. And that's what we're trying to do is we can see there's a room for improvement. When you look back from 2006 and up to now, you see the satisfaction rate with the traditional banks is definitely not something that the users, the customers, feel is a good thing. And that's where we come in. This is what things we need to change. Especially when you look at young people, the headlines here on these two articles is that young people rather go to the dentist than go to the bank. They are afraid of going to the bank. A lot of young people have financial issues due to they are afraid of going to the banks and look at how their financial situation is. We need to change that. So Lunar makes banking easier, and why? Well, primarily because when you see 50% of all young people, they do not understand what banking is. They do not understand how do I fix my financial situation. So that's the whole groundwork for us. This is how we want to try to change things. So what does it mean for us? Well, user-friendly, digital, transparent. Well, we want to make sure that when you use Lunar, it needs to be easy to navigate in. It needs to be a frictionless experience when you use our product. It needs to be an end-to-end digital experience. We don't need branches that you need to set up a meeting and you need to go and talk to your advisor. You can do it all from your app. And it needs to be transparent. We want to have a reputation that we are not hiding anything. What you see is what you get. So what is it that you pay for? And what value do you get out of it? That's all about the Lunar experience. When we look at the users today, our user profile is mainly young people. So about 50% of our users are from the age up to 25. And so which means is that we have struck in a segment that is really liking our app. We also starting to see growth in terms of the plus 25 up to 39. That's a segment that is trying to, that's definitely growing in terms of our segment as well. So even a little bit older people are starting to get their eyes up for Lunar and finding us really interesting in what we can actually do. So these guys, what is it that our users, they do today? We have about a 50% split almost in terms of the gender. Most of our users, they live in the city areas, so they live in cities, like to go travel, like to go shopping, they like to going out. And almost one fifth of our users is Easy Account users, which is we are the primary bank for those guys. So they use us for all their finances. About 20,600 kroner is the average monthly net income that we see from our users today, which is also something that is growing. So what is it that we do differently? Well, when we started out back in 2015, we were born in a world where everything is tech heavy, and that would, make us also focus on how can we use tech as an enabler for us to solve the users' pains. So what we do is we are actually building a bank from scratch. When we started out back in 2015, we only had an app with no infrastructure helping it out. So what we did is we had to partner up with a partner bank, making sure that we could use their infrastructure, and we used our app to have the great design. So when we acquired our own banking license back in last year in September, we could then kickstart our own tech stack and start building our own bank from bottom and up. We were actually the first Nordic bank to get regulatory approval to use most of our infrastructure in the cloud instead of using it on premise, which is a huge competitive enabler for us to start going into a very competitive market where traditional banks are really heavy on all the users. So we enable users to make better decisions by themselves. We are aiming for an app where they can do things themselves. So our whole business model is more around the tech stack needs to be the enabler for us to do something different. We have when we have the tech stack, we can have the core banking products that all the other banks has also, but where we can do something different is we can have shared revenue models. We don't believe in us owning the customer fully. We don't mind having a shared ownership with other partners, as long as it brings value to the user, as long as it brings values to us and to the partner, of course. So a lot about shared revenue models. We look at definitely customer-centric products in terms of we listen a lot to the users. So again, we don't need a 30% profit margin if we can get a good product that the users love and that we can share with a partner, because for us it's all about scale. It's all about getting all the users to love us and use us, and therefore have a lot of growth. Here's a few examples of how this business model is at play. So you look at Lunar in the center, our tech stack drives the whole thing. We have the core banking products, which is more like accounts, it's cards, it's installments, and we have the different products which are premium in terms of our private users, we have the business users and so forth. Where we can do something different is we have all the value-added service and the third partnerships, as you can see in the outer ring. And this is where we do the partnerships with Tryg in terms of insurance, Basis Bank in terms of third-party installments. We have integrations easily together with Bill Engineer for our business users. Just to give you a few examples as where we don't see that as something that will hinder us to go forward, but more like an enabler for us to give something to the users that is easily for them to use, instead of us sitting down and build it on our own. That will take definitely too long. So back to the strategy. So the business model is going to enable us to get us to 1 million users very, very fast. So what we do is, back to the tech stack, we can give you a free account, a free card. It's going to cost you nothing. It has most of the basic stuff that you can do when you need banking and when you need to control your finances. This is something that most haven't done before. You don't even need to break up with your current bank. So if you're already with one of the traditional banks, you can sign up for Lunar. You can still be with your traditional bank. You can just link it up in your app, and you have your full 360-degree overview of your financial overview with your own bank and Lunar as well. We are exploring a lot of channels in terms of how we go to market. So we are really heavy on social media channels. Most of our marketing is digital. We do a little bit of outdoor, but actually our digital marketing channels are the ones that are growing fast, and they're also recognized as being some of the best in class that you see at the market at the moment. We use influence marketing a lot. So we have a lot of big influencers with a lot of followers that we use for our marketing, but also they recognize us by using a lot of our products, and also, even though we don't even ask them, they start using Lunar and start sharing them on their own channels, and we get that for free. So that's actually kind of cool. So kind of like, yeah. An example here is Snap voted us best in class in terms of acquisition as a bank. So what is Lunar? Well, it sounds a bit corny, but it is a lifestyle. So social media is really, really important for us. We engage heavily with our users on social media. We are all over the place in terms of TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. We are where the users are. So back to one of the previous slides, we have a lot of young users. We need to be there in order for us to engage with our users. So we use a lot of those social media platforms to engage. We get a lot of feedback from them. We monitor a lot of those things out there to make sure that we have what's top of mind with those guys, and make sure that we build it into our business going forward. One of the really funny things that we actually didn't expect is that some of our merchandise is really, really important. It's really famous for when we look at our hoodie, for instance. I think we get about 50 inquiries every day almost from users who are saying, how can I get that hoodie? I really love that hoodie. Where can I buy it? Where's your merchandise store? We don't have a merchandise store. We won't even think about having that. And so it's kind of cool that we see influencers having our hoodies and actually showing them on their social media channels without us even asking them to do it. But it just shows that our brand is really, really important, and they really love it. Again, just to make sure that, to underline the point is that we have a high brand engagement through our digital marketing. It is the most important platforms that we use. One of our biggest is Snapchat, and Facebook is where we get a lot of both branding, but where we get a lot of customer acquisition from. It drives a lot of business for us, luckily, which means we have the ability and the agility to test things out, to do something that maybe hasn't been seen before, and we can easily scale up if we need it on a Nordic play going forward. We also rely heavily on user feedback. We are a user-first, customer-first, whatever you want to call it, company. We we heavily rely on all the feedback that we get from our users. We are pretty high on the review charts from all the review platforms as well. But also internally, everybody in the company is aware of what's going on. We have a internal tool that constantly monitors all the feedback that we get in real time. So if a customer writes a poor feedback on Trustpilot or on Facebook or great feedback, everybody, all from customer support to marketing to product to our operations teams to even our finance teams, they look at it and we discuss across the company internally, how do we fix this if there's a pain from the users? We need to fix this. How do we do that? So a really, really high attention on these things is what drives also what we do in terms of innovation. So user feedback is very, very important to us. It's what drives our innovation. We're building a financial super app, as we call it internally. So we're trying to bundle everything that's transaction-based into what is essential for our users. So we monitor a lot of data of how the users are using their cards, using their accounts, what type of payments do they have. All those kind of things do we use in terms of building strategies to build our super app. So when you look at this slide, you can see there's a lot of other companies that has nothing to do with Lunar, but this is where we go out back to the value-added services or the third-party partnerships that we want to do. How can we leverage this and build it into our app? How can we make sure that you use Lunar, even though you're using some of those great brands that you see here? How can we build that into the app so again you can stay in our app and do everything and have your financial overview and do everything from our app? That's what we're trying to build in terms of innovation. That's what why we're constantly looking for new third parties to partner up with to make sure that we can give the users frictionless experiences in terms of financial overview. One of the processes that we do, one of the tools that we have in our toolbox is we do design sprints in some terms when we talk about innovation. So back to the tech stack, it enables us to do something very quickly. We don't have the legacy systems that hinders us from going live with new stuff. But in order for us to go live with the right stuff, we do design sprints. We do it internally on our own with our product teams, with our customer support teams, with marketing. Everyone is involved when we do design sprints. So we can, in only 5 days, go from a customer pain or a business challenge, however you want to call it, and in 5 days we can actually have a user-tested concept where we can see, okay, how do we do this? When the user-tested concept is in place, we can actually go build it and implement really, really fast. And that is where we have our competitive advantage in terms of maybe the more traditional banks that have a lot more legacy systems under the hood, so to say. So user sprints or design sprints is very important to us. It's also something that we do together with our partnerships. So we invite them in when we do partnerships. How can we do this? How can we connect together with Lunar in a more frictionless experience? Also in terms of our product, so I mentioned beforehand that we have a freemium account that everybody can sign up for free and have a card that looks good, that is a good thing to use, it's easy. But also we have introduced new tiers when we became our own bank. So this spring we introduced Premium, which is a paid product. But this is where you can get nicer cards, different colors, you can get multiple accounts. And back to the transparency, this is where we say, you get this for this price, and there's nothing, no hidden fees. There's nothing here that you need to be worried about. You can definitely see what it is you're paying for. So back to the transparency, and also a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you use your money and your financial situation. We also introduced a new tier which is Pro. And Pro is something where you can even get your own personal design laser engraved on your card. So when you use your card in the shops or in the nightclub, you can definitely gloat a little bit about, this is my card, this is how it looks, my signature, whatever you want to put on. So which is a really cool feature that a lot of our users think is nice. And it's also Pro is the first metal card from a Danish bank in Denmark launched. So this is something where we try to be a first mover, and this is something again that we see heavy intake on the Pro card. So definitely a tier that we are gonna explore, and how can we introduce even more advantages and features in this product going forward. We just introduced new colors as well, so it's not only a black card you can get. One of the other partnership that is really important for us is that we launched our Invest feature, which is you can now invest from the Lunar app. This is something where we partnered up with Saxo Bank, which probably most of you already know. So what we built is we built a feature in the app where you can invest in the top 300 most used, or not most used, but most traded companies in Saxo Bank's platform. And we made it easy to understand in terms of, we built this feature in 2 months. We decided that it needs to be the most frictionless experience in terms of making it easy for our users to invest. There's going to be this top 300 shares you can buy and trade. And in terms of pricing, we made it really simple. You are only going to pay for each trade that you use, which is 19 kroner. So again, back to the transparency, back to the making it easy to navigate and more simple. Of course, it doesn't make sure that everybody, if you are a day trader, this probably isn't the best product for you, but we think when we look at our user segment, this is something where we see a lot of young users. They are not already into trading and investing, so how can we actually start them to educate them a little bit how you invest your money? One of the newest partnerships that we just did is that we made a partnership with Astralis, which is a big esports team. And those guys are really eager to connect with us. So we are building some new stuff together with those guys. I can only say a little bit about it, but we're doing a Astralis branded card as a beginning, and more to come about that. So really excited about that one. So that was my presentation, guys. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to get all your interesting questions from now on.
Hey, thank you so much, Christian. Maybe if you could move the chair a little bit.
I will do that.
Stand over here. We have a few questions from the audience.
Cool.
And the first question is from, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, but that might happen, Corina Dolcher. And the question is, what are the main competitive advantages you see for Lunar, given the fact that not only do banks provide integrated solutions for digital banking, but there are many present and upcoming startups doing the same since PSD2?
Cool. Yeah, really great question. So I think our biggest advantage is definitely the license. Like for us to go through the whole application process with the Danish financial authorities was a huge success for us. It gives us competitive advantages how we can build products that the others can't do. So, for instance, I can give you an example. We can launch our own installments, our own loans, but at the same time we can build partnerships with other companies that can do the same. But then we can provide our users to decide on their own: do they want our loan? Do they want our our partnership loan? And from there on, we can also control our own risk in terms of Lunar. When you have a bank, it's all about risk. So how do you minimize that as well? At the same time, driving great user experience.
Yeah, and we have another question. The question is or when will Lunar be available for internationals living in Denmark?
I think we are already. You should be able to apply already. There's of course a few terms that you need to be aware of, but we are already. If you are an EU citizen, for instance, we have opened up for that already. So definitely get back to me. You can always find me on LinkedIn or anywhere else, and I will see what we can do for you.
Great. Next question. Sorry, the question before was from Alexander Els. Next question is also from Corina from before, which is, could you develop more of a kind of product that Lunar offers in collaboration with the bookkeeping startups like Economic and Dinero and companies like that?
Oh, definitely. We are already in talks with some other startups. We really like. We're still we think ourselves as a startup, so we like the whole startup. How do you say? Atmosphere that is around. So we enjoy startups, but when we talk about those kind of solutions, we are already in discussions with some of those startups that can bring in, like for instance, taxes. How could we provide something that is more intelligent with those startups that can help our users to not think about taxes, for instance, but also accounting and stuff like that. So it is something that we are constantly exploring. So definitely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from Niels Christian Damgaard. And the question is, how does Lunar react to competition from companies like Amazon and Facebook when they're talking about developing their own currencies?
We welcome them very much. No, of course we see them definitely as a competitor, but also as a partner. So we have a great relationship with both Google, Amazon, and those kind of things. They help us a lot with our business. So it is something that we're discussing. But back to the licensing thing, we have definitely a competitive advantage there where we could do stuff that probably those guys can't at the beginning. But it is something where we need to be very mindful of, and that's where we need to be more efficient and even drive our launch of features even faster than we do today. Even 5 days is fast, we want to be even faster.
Great. Next question is from Sebastian Beckmann, also a little bit on competitive advantage. From what I've understood, Lunar's competitive edge when it comes to customers is your platform, application and brand. Do you have other competitive edges in regards of interest rates and fees, for example, deposit rates, free FX, etc.?
Well, it's something that we, of course, are looking into all the time when we launch new products. Back to the transparency. So it might not be that we will give everything away from free, because then we won't have a successful business going forward. But we will definitely tell you what the cost of being a user at Lunar will be. But we have some other competitive advantages as well. When we look at, we have our brand, like you said yourself, but also we definitely see our customer service, our customer experience as a driver of loyalty. We were voted the second best, not the first, unfortunately, but the second best financial app about a year ago by the Danish newspaper Børsen. But that was more in terms of our tone of voice. So back to the traditional banks, they have advisors, the way they communicate their tone of voice is probably what drives young people to be afraid of the banks. This is where we are more having more of an eyesight kind of level when we talk to our users and use a lot of tools in terms of making it more easy. So we see our customer service also back to making it frictionless, back to making a digital experience. How do we do that also? But of course, we will not go into a place where everything will be free, because then we won't have a successful business going forward. But we will be more transparent about what you will pay for us.
Great, thank you. The next question is from Annika Lambacher. And the question is, what do you do in terms of data protection and security? How do you take concerns of future customers away in regards of being financially analyzed, in depth and transparent?
Really great question. So back to the whole licensing, we are overseen by the Danish financial authorities because we got a banking license, which means there's a lot of demands that we need to be able to live up to in terms of solvency Our whole business strategy is something that they look into. How good are we in terms of performing? How do we do that? And that's something that we really are transparent about. We just had the first visit, our first exam from the authorities, and that's something we're going to go out and tell our users. How did we do that? How good were we? What is it that we did really well? But what do we need to do better? Because they told us this is where you need to fix stuff.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Julie Exner, and it's a Corona question. And how did Corona affect Lunar? Did you see an increase in users or decrease? What about investor space and stuff like that?
Really great question. So yeah, Corona was definitely something that shook up the whole business. So in our terms, we launched Lunar, our own Lunar, not with the partner bank that I told you guys before during the presentation. So when we were able to launch Lunar, we did that during Corona. So in the beginning of March, when everything started to shut down in the whole society, we were able to sit from our couches and everybody working from home and actually go live with our own bank, which was quite an accomplishment from us. So Lunar didn't affect us that much. We saw still an increase in user growth. We get about 12 to 15,000 new users every month, which is quite amazing. We didn't see anything slowing down there because it's digital. We were able to keep our customers engaged on the social platform, telling them what's going on. How can you still use Lunar in terms of what's going on with Corona? So luckily we didn't see anything. We saw a small dip in terms of our interchange revenue, but it was really nothing. We didn't even see a dip. We just saw it flatline a little bit and then pick up again. But that was because all traveling were banned. But our revenue model is not only based on interchange fees, it's also based on insurance, it's based on our tiers that I told you about, and loans and stuff like that. So we are pretty solid in terms of our revenue model.
Great, and we have a question from Adrian Dobler. And how international is your team? Is it mostly Danish or Scandinavian?
Really great question. Definitely we see a majority of Danish people, but we actually have people in country in Sweden and in Norway, and we also have quite a few. I think we have about 12 people from the Scandinavian countries, and also from other countries as well. We have Letland and so forth. So, but definitely the majority, I would say about 85% is Danish, but we are looking into diversity. We are driving programs with our HR in terms of how can we be more diverse in terms of languages, cultural background, and so forth. So it's definitely something that is on top of our mind.
Yeah, and the next question is from Anton Ellegaard. The question is, in terms of accessibility, how high do you value or prioritize limiting the number of steps required to open a bank account that, for example, Revolut have been using heavily in their marketing?
It is something that we constantly is looking at. I think almost every day we sit down and try to onboard ourselves on the app with all the features or the changes that we do, that we launch to make it even more simple and more frictionless in our onboarding experience. Of course, we have the whole regulation stuff that we need to be aware of. Something, again, back to the financial authorities, looking over our shoulders, making sure that we are compliant and stuff like that. So again, the banking license is an enabler, but also making sure that we are compliant. We want to be the most compliant bank in the Nordics. That is one of the aspirations that we have as well. So for us, it's a constant measure that we're trying to look at. How can we make it more frictionless but still be compliant?
Thank you. And the next question is in regards to the license, just from Julie Exner. How long time did it take for Lunar to get your banking license?
So we spend quite a lot of time. This is really important for us, back to our business model. So we really wanted to go for that license. We spent I think it was about 13 months from starting the application for us to get the approval. So a really, really long processing time with those guys. But again, like I said in one of my slides, we're the first Nordic bank to get approval from the authorities to actually build our whole tech stack in the cloud and not be on premise, which is a big win. And that was probably what made the whole application process a bit hairy, as to say.
Yeah. Next question is from Alexander Els. What did your POC early on look like, or your MVP maybe look like, or what did you do to be able to raise a large amount of money from investors in the earlier days?
Oh, good question. I think, to be honest, I'm not the best to answer that question. That was definitely before my time, but I've heard the stories. I've seen the first emails from our CEO, Ken, to Seed Capital, one of our biggest investors. Quite funny to look at those written emails on how they tried to sell the whole stuff and get the funding. No, I think the POC from that time was definitely looking back to the whole, how do you make banking easy? That was probably the first payoff that they tried to get funding from. So again, starting selling the dream. How do we make banking a lot more different than it is today? And it wasn't that cool because we were relying heavily on our partner bank. But over the years, I think one of the greatest accomplishments is the design in the app. It's something that we get a lot of feedback from both users, but also even competitors saying, that's really cool.
Thank you. And we just have 2 more questions. So second last question is from Niels Christian Damsgaard. And his question is, why have you chosen to focus on the Nordics rather than expanding to multiple countries, as you probably are able to passport your banking license across Europe?
Yeah, definitely. So our Nordic strategy is definitely something that we think it's where we see the biggest opportunities at the moment. We have the likes of Monzo, we have the likes of N26, we have the likes of Revolut, and those they are really, really big players expanding heavily. But again, like you said yourself, the passporting of our license is going to play a big part of our Nordic strategy to go in and conquer users in the Nordic countries. Right now, we are already available in Sweden and Norway with a more basic product than we have in Denmark. We are on the verge of launching in Sweden a better product, and right after that, we will go into Norway. And immediately after that, we will also go into Finland. So we have a big expansion there. But we think the Nordic users, when we look at how they act in terms of financials, this is where we can see there's a big play for us rather than going into some of the other Nordic countries where the competition is already really heavy.
Thank you. And we're getting a few more questions. We'll just take them as well. But this question is from Sebastian Beckmann. The question is, how much have Lunar invested so far in the app? Are Lunar making a profit yet? And if not, when do you believe to do so?
Well, really good question. So, we haven't made any profits yet. We're definitely surviving by funding. So we got about 450 million Danish kroner in funding so far to get us here. And we have a new tail round going out now that we're trying to get even more funding for us to expand into the other Nordic countries and set that up. So I think what we see is we are really, really focused on our revenue model and our monthly active users, which is the balance for us to be successful. So how do we get the users to use us even more? How do we have them to use our partnerships product so we get more revenue? But we see a huge trend. We see a really, really great trend in our revenues, even though we are in the midst of Corona. So I think when we reached about, our plan for now is that when we reach 2022, we will not see any. We will see a positive profit, and also that we will see that we can. We will even have a break even before that.
Thank you. And we have another question from Corina. Does your anti-money laundering scheme differ in any way from the traditional banks' anti-money laundering schemes, or is it different for you as a fintech operating digitally?
So that's well, the whole the regulatory compliance, the demands from those guys to us is exactly the same. We do have a different operating model in terms we are in the cloud and so forth, and that means that there's a lot more focus on us on how we can drive that business, because the other guys have it on premise in terms of the whole stack setup. But for us, again, we want to be the most compliant bank in the Nordics, also in regards to AML. So we are heavily investing in how can we set up something where we use AI, machine learning, those kind of things that enable us to not hire 300 or 1,500 people in those departments to make sure that we are compliant. So we have definitely a more, again, back to being digital, we want to be intelligent about this. We want to be able to scale even in terms of AML. So this is where we want to be a lot more a front runner than all the other guys.
Thank you. And now we have 2 more questions.
Cool.
Second last is from Julie Exner. Kind of the same question, but did the Danske Bank scandal in regards of anti-money laundering affect Lunar in any way? Maybe an increase of users or decrease of users, or anything you could count on?
I definitely say that we could feel that that the scandal happened for one of our colleagues, so to say. We did see a bit of an increase of people opening an account with us, but again, I think most of the other banks took also a big slash of the pie there, because when you look at our products, we are not able to accommodate all the needs that those type of customers have yet. But we did see an increase in customers, but we didn't see anything negative. It was more of a positive response to guys. When you can do this, we look forward to onboard you because we really want to get on board with you guys.
Thank you. And the last question is from Anton Ellegaard. The question is, in relation to your newly founded partnership with Astralis, is this a marketing channel of great focus for Lunar? If so, what are the values that you emphasize before going into new partnerships?
Really good question. So yeah, so again, definitely this is something where we want to co-brand Lunar together with Astralis. We want to try to leverage new features that can enable us to drive revenue and drive monthly active users. What we see with Astralis is, of course, when we look at that user segment, it fits us really nicely. And of course, this is something where we are like a first mover in terms of when we look at esports. So it's new grounds for us to go in a partnership like this. So it's kind of like trial and error, but we have really big hopes for this, because it's also, they have a big play. Astralis, they are a really known brand in the Nordic play that we are in. So we have a really heavily rely on those guys also to drive our co-brand together with those when we go into the Nordic play.
Thank you so much. That was the last question
for
Christian. Thank you so much for showing up, guys. It was really good that you had an interest in the conference, in FinTech in general. And of course, we have a few hours left on some of the other tracks that you can go and watch. And we hope you have fun. You can also network with the other participants if you just go in the networking menu and then write to whoever you think could be of your interest. You can, of course, also contact Christian in that way. Else, just reach out to me and I will put you in contact. Thank you.
Thank you.